Daniel, I'm Sari with Awards Buzz. It is
So,
so awesome to be with you today and get to dive into the show with you.
yeah.
Um, First off, you've been sitting on this big reveal for a while now. What is it? We had this at the end of season two. What has it been like for you now after the secret's out? Are you diving into what the fans are saying? What's happening on your end?
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, what I really loved about the way it all happened was that I'd had 4 or 5 years of being with the character myself, knowing the stranger inside out and feeling like I'd got a handle on who the showrunners wanted me to play. So that when it was revealed, and I loved that way that he revealed it with the fact that they're going to call me, that's what they're going to call me, as opposed to that's my name, but somewhere I'm going to be, that's kind of what my name will be. Other people will give it to me. That idea, I think, is really lovely, um, and it's sort of it felt right. It felt like it fitted. It fitted for where I was. It didn't feel like it was a huge change, which I liked. I liked the fact that it wasn't some kind of earth-shattering moment where he's like, "Hold on." I think that's really good in terms of Tolkien marrying Tolkien's story with JD and Patrick's stories. And then in terms of what people have made of it, yeah, it's been really lovely for me. People have just all the people that have spoken to me directly about it, you know, people who've either recognized me or have talked about the show, um, feel sort of like they've gone on the same journey, that they got to know him. So they got to know him as just this being that landed, and that eventually it felt about the right time when the name started to crop up that they also felt like they knew him as Gandalf as well by then. So it's been extraordinary. And my personal journey is beginning to be okay with the fact that we're talking about Gandalf. That's taken quite a while because normally I'd be like, I'm talking about, can I can I say it? But yeah, it's nice to be finally able to talk about it.
Well, it is beautiful to have watched him just develop over the course of two seasons as the stranger. I'll
Yeah.
get into some of the physicality in that, like the training and preparation that you did in becoming the stranger.
Yeah, we worked really hard on that. Because obviously the first season he couldn't talk really. So all the kind of I was really keen to try and find a way of conversing or communicating with my body. And and that's accentuated by the difference in height between the Harfoots and the stranger. Um, and the way that he might be misinterpreted because he's so much taller than they are, or and he has these outbursts, these sort of emotional outbursts that are quite discombobulating. So we worked with a movement director on the first season who really helped me to find ways of expressing things and be aware of things. And it was one of those great collaborative film stories where when you put the costume on, you start to think, well, actually, this is so heavy. It pulls him down in a particular way. I remember the first time I tried it on, it felt like it wanted to pull him to the ground. It felt like it anchored him into the earth, which I think was great for the stranger. And then the hair and makeup people, the way they made things move, again, it felt like he flowed in a particular way. And then, seeing my own fingers with the dirt and the grime and knowing that his feet were bare and they were always in this wonderful earth of New Zealand. All those things sort of fed together, and they told their own story. So that I then brought the showrunner's idea of the character in, and we ended up with this. What I think is, I'm really pleased with where we got to. A really cool creation of somebody, and then taking that through when speech came in, being able to talk as well, wanting to keep him as the same, not wanting people to go, oh, hang on a second, where's the stranger gone now that he can speak? Bringing that in, and it's been a really cool journey.
Was gonna say, following your journey on that, I heard you liken the character to an elephant, uh, getting into that role.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, those sort of, I think there's so much about the character that came. I was lucky that it came from everybody else's ideas. So, sometimes you approach a character and you have a really clear personal view of it. Or maybe you have to explore that yourself, and there's not a lot of help around you to work those things out. And then other jobs like this, you really feel like you're a conduit for every department's version of the story, and actually they all feed into you, and then it sort of comes out on screen through you. But it's not just my story. Like it's clearly 8 or 9 different departments all working through, using me as a way to tell their version. And for Gandalf, that feels so right, because everybody's got a really personal relationship with that character, and also the kind of character that he is, and the values that he has, and the way he looks to interact with other communities and groups. All of those things I think people have their own personal resonances with. And so I felt as the actor that I was able to hopefully take what they spoke to me about and what they gave me as costume or hair and makeup, or even lighting, directors, obviously, all of those things all flowing through. And yeah, it was a real privilege to play so far, and long may that continue.
Absolutely. And the environment, I mean, shooting in New Zealand obviously played a part in building this character and the story. I want to hear about some of your stories filming on set. Another thing that I took away from it was that lightning storm that had rolled in when you were doing a fire scene.
Yeah. We had some pretty epic stuff. I was lucky enough to film on location for virtually everything, season one and season two. So New Zealand season one, Tenerife, the sort of island just off Africa, Spanish island, really intense scenery, like a sort of lunar landscape, lots of sand, very very impressive. Up a volcano, really. I mean, the whole island is basically a volcano, and so yeah, up there, uh, elementally, I think you can't help but be infected by what nature is giving you. And again, that's great for the character, I think. So much of that. And I always felt like the idea of magic with the stranger in Gandalf was less magic like a magician that we know of, but this wizardry magic is more about the energy in the universe, the energy between the gods and the stars and the ground through the sky, and into the earth, and what happens deep in the earth, and where the animals live, where the bugs live, and connecting all those different things. So when you're on top of a volcano and you're rehearsing, and the wind is in, and the fog is down, and you can't see anything, and it's freezing cold, and you think, how are we going to shoot? How are we going to shoot up here? There's no way we could probably. And then the next day you go back and there's no cloud, and it's piercing blue sky, and it's incredibly intensely hot, and the sun is reflecting off the sand, and you can barely look at it. It's very easy to get. It's very easy to go with that. Just accept that, here I am, this small being on a massive world, massive universe. Keep going out and just sort of play with that insignificance, and the way that, the way that we can be influenced by our natural surroundings. Yeah, I love that.
Was there a particular line in season two that you got to say that you felt like truly encapsulated the spirit of your character?
I mean, there were a couple. Yeah, there were a couple. I found the little call and response with Nori at the end, when they're saying goodbye to each other, when he realizes that she's saying she's got stuff to do, that her purpose is not just to come and be, his friend and help him out. She's got stuff that she needs to do for the Halfwoods. She's got to go and follow her own storyline. And as she does that, I felt him sort of almost not reprimanding, but sort of almost realizing that maybe he'd just not been empathetic enough to her story about her, her family, her life, her community. And so he says a line, at the end of the day, we're very different creatures, we're very different beings, you and I. And she comes back with, not so different, if you ask me. And I thought that little section was just like, yeah, different in so many obvious ways, different, but in so many slightly more lower, subconscious, sort of more ethereal ways, so the same. We all go through the same struggles. Doesn't matter where you come from. There are lots of relatable things between communities. Let's look out for those things that bring us together. Let's look out for ways in which we can connect to each other. Let's know that when we make friendships, that even if we're not going to be together, we're still friends. Like, I can still get with people, even though I don't see, all those kind of things, what it means to be a true friend. So I thought that little section was great. And obviously the final one, where he gets the sort of nod from Tom Bombadil, as if, hang on a sec, Huh. So the wizard doesn't find his staff, the staff finds the wizard, a bit like his name. And it just lands on him and finding himself back in here under this star map that's on Tom Bombadil's ceiling. And it's like what I love is the idea that these two wizards have a when they're together, the world feels different for Gandalf, when he's with another wizard than it does when he's with the Harfoots. The sphere is different. With the Harfoots, it's immediate. It's the size of Middle Earth, or even just this area of Middle Earth. With Tom Bombadil, it goes boom, 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 boom. It's the world, the next stage out, the sort of solar system, the universe, the end of time, how long it keeps going out for. And suddenly with Tom Bombadil, it's like he can see forward and he can see back and outwards at the same time. And in there somewhere, there's this resonance of this name that just formulates in his mind. And he's had the goodbye with the stores, and they've been calling him this strange name, this grand elf, and obviously that doesn't mean much to him. But it's as if it comes down from the future, and he can almost taste it, and he says, that's what they're going to call me, isn't it? And saying Gandalf on screen, for me, that was the first time I'd really dared say the word both on and off screen. So to say it in that moment was joyous and humbling, and hopefully the way that Gandalf would feel about finding his own name.
What a moment. What a
Yeah, massive, massive.
Are there, just looking forward into the future, anything that particularly excites you about next season?
I mean, it's such a joy to play this part. I really feel I love him. I love the character deeply. I have a real special place for him. It's always a joy to get back into costume. I don't know yet a lot about season three. I don't, I will find things out as they come. I think we'll probably keep working like that. Um, I think we know that darkness is ever encroaching. I think we've heard from the showrunners that there's been a bit of a time jump, which might mean that things have moved on significantly, and impending disaster might be that bit closer. So I think the stakes are going to be higher. We're going to be in some pretty intense situations, and I'm just excited to see where he is and what he what he gets up to.
So excited.
Yeah,
I have a couple of fun trivia questions if you want
sure.
to play along.
Yeah,
See
yeah.
where it goes.
Let's
I'll
do
throw
it.
some stuff
Here we
out.
go.
Okay. Which musical artist's theme did Charlie Vickers adopt for his portrayal of Sauron?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I can give you a multiple choice.
Well, let's hang because I think I watched him, as he was Halbrand, and we all thought he was just Halbrand, and then suddenly he's Sauron, and then suddenly in season two he's really doing some pretty awful things. I'm just thinking about the kind of musicality that he might have gone for, and knowing who he is. I mean, I feel like if there was one theatre musical he might have watched, it's hard to see past Mamma Mia for that. I'm thinking, he could really got him going. It's that kind of. No, I'm joking. But I think, I don't know, something dark, maybe something classical, maybe some sort of big sort of orchestral sort of classical piece. I don't know. Yeah, give me some multiple choice. What have we got?
Okay, we have
Oh,
Beethoven,
yeah.
Johnny Cash, or
Ooh,
Taylor Swift.
tricky. When you said Beethoven, I was like, is there a Beethoven with? Yeah, I mean, maybe Beethoven's Ninth, the choral symphony, maybe something like that. No, or what was it? Johnny Cash.
Taylor Swift. Answer
No.
no.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Of course it's Taylor Swift. What am I thinking? Idiot. Yes.
It's
Uh,
everywhere.
we're all Taylor Swift. I mean, I don't know why I didn't think of it. Stupid.
We're all Swifties at heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, okay, how about this one? Who was presented with a miniature model of their character after filming?
Ah. Hmm. Well, there's only one character that comes to mind that saw themselves as not their own physical body, and that I think was Celebrimbor in Morvith in Gladriel's Dream. So I'm going to go Charlie Edwards. Is that right? He got a mod. Did he get that?
You got
Did
it
he get
right.
a model
Yes.
with the vines and all that? Oh, that's cool to get that. I wonder how big was it? Was it like a full-sized sort of 6 foot?
It was a miniature one. It was a miniature.
Ah, that must be so lovely. I love the idea of that.
Isn't that cool?
He was brilliant. I thought Charlie Vickers, Charlie Edwards is well, Charlie and Charlie, the two Charlies were that storyline was so fantastic to watch. Beautiful, heartbreaking, gripping, oof,
All,
fantastic.
all of you are fantastic to watch, Daniel. It's been incredible hanging out with you today. Thank you for
You
being a
too.
good sport and playing along with our
Hey, no worries. Nice
trivia.
to see you.